You're still alive? Or undead?
Are you trying to be funny? Of course I am. Though I did nearly have to change bodies. So here we are, a little closer to our goal. Of course, the next thing we must do is to find a way to dispose of Blackfart's wives.
Blackfart's wives?
Are you shocked? Blackfrost's polygamy is probably a reflection of his megalomania, even though it was quite common in the past. The most powerful of them is called the Guardian. She is protecting the palace entry, and I fear she is invulnerable as long as her three sisters live. You must first face the Creator, the Stalker, and then the Watcher, if you are to have any chance of defeating her.
I've already beaten one of them. I can kill the others.
You are more than capable, my dear. There is no doubt about that. But this place is bathed in a kind of corruption that lends strength to these creatures.
Is there a way of getting rid of it?
Probably. There are still a few red scribes around. Stupid though they are, they may have some idea how to proceed. Did you know that before it became Blackfart's Folly, this place was originally a palace built by the elves, devoted entirely to theatre and song?
I kind of doubt that's going to help me much.
Alas, what a... You have evolved, my dear. You have become quite sublime. We need to have a little word in private.
What do you want?
Quite simply, an exchange of experiences from one superior entity to another.
I'm not sure I know what you mean.
You are using a human body as a host, just as I am, though the condition of mine is somewhat worse. What is your degree of control? Your feeling? What have you tried? Do you still feel the need to satisfy your human's desires?
It's more like coexistence. Vulcan is still most present. I have need of its human experience. Some aspects of this flesh existence are still strange to me. I understand not why we tarry here, giving help to this one or that one, when we know that we must go to the World Heart.
You see, humans, when you get down to it, are rather like ants. They have to scurry around all the time to feel alive, to give themselves a sense of purpose, and they live in groups, of course. If one combines these facts, one can see that they actually need to rush about here and there helping one another. Despite the fact, of course, that those they are helping are about as important from an overall perspective as the ants that we spoke of initially.
I want to ask you a couple of questions. Why are you still here?
You mean other than the pleasure of being near you? Well, you see, my dear, my curiosity knows no bounds, and you already know I'm immortal. I should think those two reasons would be enough to allow me to be present for the end of the world, though obviously it is my dearest wish that your little plan should succeed. Your transformation is spectacular, and I can hardly wait to see what's next. Know that if the world is not totally destroyed in the next few hours, but that you should fall, I shall be inconsolable. And I shall celebrate your name for hundreds of years. Or for a short while, anyway.
That'll be a real consolation to me once I'm decomposing. This Blackfrost, have you ever met him before?
It's entirely possible, but if I did, he didn't go by that name in those days. You see, at that time, I found the company of any and all living creatures quite simply unbearable. But of course, I hadn't yet had the pleasure of meeting you. I had decided to move to an area as far away from anyone else as possible. As the desert climate tends to wear out my bodies faster, I opted to move up to the great frozen north. I lived there peacefully in my modest palace for some years, until one day, a small group of people arrived. There were a dozen apprentice sorcerers who called themselves the White Lords. Believe me, in those days, Lord was about the last thing anyone would think of calling them. On reflection, I should have slain them on the spot for having disturbed my peace and stolen some books from my archives. But I was rather bored, and their thefts intrigued me, and so I followed them. I picked up their trail in a city a few towns along. There were quite a few of them at the time, and the locals seemed to like them well enough.
Are you talking about the Ice Lords?
Yes, of course, though they weren't calling themselves that. I watched them for a while, but they were so ridiculous that I quickly grew bored of them. Clearly, managing to steal from my library had been the result of the merest stroke of luck.
And Blackfrost?
Doubtless he was one of them. A talentless conjurer who imagined himself a great mage without having any of the abilities to go with the title. Of course, with the passing of time and using my research, they finally managed to achieve their goal. If they're still the gang of megalomaniacs that they were, then they are extremely dangerous.
Did you know that Edwin was really the White Lady the whole time?
Yes, even though I almost didn't recognize her with all that clothing on. You may not believe it, but when she was a young girl amongst the White Lords, she liked to stroll around nearly naked.
How come you never said anything?
Oh, please. It would be a shame to spoil the delightful humor of such a situation.
Talk to you later.
I'm happy to see that you are still alive. I wish I could say the same for your companions.
Sybil? Branval?
Neither they nor your mercenary comrades show any sign of life, which leads me to think, what horrible carnage.
I'll take a look around the place in case one of them is still alive.
Even if there's only a slim chance, you shouldn't hesitate. Unfortunately, we've got something else on our minds. Mathras doubtless spoke to you about the strange corruption in this place. Corruption that makes the undead much more powerful, sometimes even unbeatable.
Do you know of a way to cut it down or block it?
I believe I have an idea, yes. The corruption does not extend to all places in the same way. Some areas seem to be exempt. And I believe the undead I saw there were less comfortable. These are exactly the same places as where the crystals with magical capabilities can be found. If you can gather some, we will be able to make you a talisman that will let you drive back the corruption around you, and so fight the undead as you usually would.
Will it repulse the Deadwalkers?
I doubt that the lone talisman is powerful enough for that. Added to which, you have to stay completely still. But the idea...
When he looks like that, it means he's trying to think. Funny, isn't it? Here, I'll show you the zones where you can find the crystals on your map.
Excuse me, I was lost in thought. Here, take this to gather the crystals, and bring us back as many as possible. That's a pretty good idea. If we place the crystals around the camp, we should be able to keep the undead away from here. Of course, we'll need more than it takes to make a single talisman.
All right, I'll bring it back for you. How are we going now? That makes one. It's true. This thing really does stink.